I've arrived in Tobruk, off a boat filled with replacements and reinforcements. Young men blindly rushing to their deaths. None of them are comfortable having someone like me around. Suits me fine. Most of them won't make it out of here alive.
You know, I don't think I play this game correctly. The name Sniper Elite implies a sniper of great skill, which already implies being difficult to detect. So far, in both the second and third game of this series, I've come to the conclusion that if the Germans were not already aware of my presence upon arrival to any mission area, they certainly learned in short order. Something about waiting for sound cover to shoot just bores me, and let's be honest here for a minute, it's so much faster and more satisfying to Rambo your way through the hordes of shorts-wearing Nazis that crawl through the mud. Maybe I'm just crazy, who knows. Sniper Elite 3 was released this past Friday, though, and after playing it for a decent while, I've come to a conclusion. I'm not a very good sniper. But the question we ask here today, as always, is it any good? Sniper Elite 3 is a game about stealth, loud noises, and brain explosions. Players once again assume the control of Carl Fairburn, a gravelly-voiced American OSS agent who is inserted into the midst of the African conflict between the advancing Nazis and the Allies. Players are then tasked with assisting the Allied forces in the African front in operations that require a slightly more delicate hand than a traditional assault, and in almost single-handedly disposing of the entirety of the Afrika Korps. While the focus of the game is not entirely different from its predecessors, Sniper Elite 3 makes a ton of changes for the better. Gone is the linear line-traveling gameplay that plagued Sniper Elite V2, which led to some incredibly boring treks back through the same scripted sequences if one was to fail, and in its place, large, mostly open mission arenas that encourage experimentation and exploration. Objectives are clearly laid out in a way that offers a path of progression through the map, but the way that the player tackles them is entirely open-ended, and optional objectives often crop up as players discover them, which range from blowing up a vehicle depot to stealing top-secret plans. In total, the game features 8 missions in its campaign, with each one being a fairly massive open playground to sneak around in or run and gun through. Of course, the game is a celebration of Rebellion's biggest and most famous feature of the series, the violently graphic, head-destroying X-ray kill cams. Returning in full glory is the bone-shattering, lung-tearing, and ball-poppingly violent kill cam, which the series is known for. Rebellion went all out in making sure that every detail was perfect for the cams. Slow motion leading up to the shot, and the camera tightly following the bullet, and the roar of air reaching crescendo as the round travels ever closer to the target. Upon impact, blood, bone, and body fluids explode from the wounds in a horrific show of satisfying violence. For those more interested in the mechanical, Rebellion has also implemented an X-ray camera for the destruction of vehicles, which allows player to see the destruction of the vehicle's engine block as the bullet passes through. Despite their regular occurrence, I never really grew tired of the bullet camera either. Almost every shot will have one, some being less dramatic than others, but the satisfaction of watching the carnage unfold after each meticulously planned engagement is rewarding enough that I never really skipped them. Rebellion has also managed to implement a fairly rudimentary stealth system, with guards that will patrol about and spot the player depending on distance, light, and movement. The AI is fairly good at detecting the player, which encourages the slow and methodical approach to the game, though they still suffer from the tunnel vision that plagues so many stealth games. Provided you're not standing directly in front of them, it's usually a fairly simple task to evade, or even follow and execute guards that are investigating the player's position. Most of the time, after taking a shot without something to cover the noise, the game will also prompt the player to relocate. The act of relocating after an unmasked shot generally just sees the player move a certain distance away from where the shot took place, followed by the guards magically forgetting that the player ever existed. For those curious, there is no detriment to not approaching a situation stealthily. I often found myself engaged in full-on firefights, as XP is rewarded for killing targets anyway, so if sprinting around with the assault rifle is your thing, by all means, it can be done. The assault path felt more efficient anyway, as the gunfire lures the guards to your position, and after that, it's just like shooting fish in a barrel. Multiplayer also makes its return in the latest iteration of Sniper Elite. Back in shining are the classic Team Deathmatch and Deathmatch game modes, along with 2 slightly more relevant game modes, Distance King and No Cross. In Distance King, players are awarded points based on the distance a shot traveled to kill, and in No Cross, maps are edited with a series of blockades that keeps players from being able to cross into the opposing team's side of the map, which basically forces players to snipe it out at longer distances. Multiplayer also features cooperative play with up to 2 players through all 8 missions of the campaign, as well as a new wave-based survival mode that pits both of the players against an onslaught of Nazis. Sniper Elite 3 is definitely a step in the right direction for the series. While I'd love to see bigger areas, more gadgets, and a bit more variety in terms of methods to clear an area, Rebellion managed to pull together a surprisingly competent game for their third entry in the franchise. While I've run into a few small bugs with AI, generally simple things like a guard here or there standing in place like an unrigged model, nothing so far has caused the game to break, which is excellent. Even running with super sampling and anti-aliasing maxed, I've had a silky smooth 50 to 60 frames per second on my setup. Sniper Elite 3 from Rebellion Developments gets a 7.5 out of 10 and is available now for $49.99 or your regional equivalent. Until next time, stay awesome, and cheers.